What's going on, traders? We're going to try to make this quick, but before we start, like, subscribe, comment your thoughts below. Let's get into the video. So, heading into tomorrow, I'm pretty bullish. I will say that much. I know YouTubers, Reddit, Twitter, everyone's expecting a huge drop to come, but I don't think we're quite there yet. I don't think we're going to see it at least at the beginning of the week. And I can be wrong here. I do expect a drop to happen at least sometime this week, but I don't think it's going to happen right away. So, what do we know about Mondays? If you've been on the channel for a while, you already know that Mondays usually mirror Fridays, right? And granted, we did close a lot lower on Friday. I wouldn't say a lot lower, but lower on Friday than we did on Thursday. If we look at the daily time frame on the SPY, we did close lower here. So that does leave room for expectations that we could be heading lower heading into tomorrow, or we just have a boring day because Mondays are usually boring and very low volume, and we just pretty much consolidate here. Those are the options that's on the table, at least heading into tomorrow. Now, heading into the rest of at least the beginning of the week, I would say that we could be looking at a potential lower high forming or a double top scenario when we're looking at the SPY. Right now, we're looking at the 4 hour time frame. And we still have this gap here at around 546.3, 546.8 range. So we could be looking at a move like this, at least heading into Monday and Tuesday, where we either form a lower high right here and then go lower, or we form a double top up here and meet up back at 450. You guys get the idea, right? But we come back up to 450, form some type of double top, and then we potentially break down. There's also another scenario that could be really annoying, and I've told you guys this in other videos where we just finesse up here for a very long time. And I guess long time is about perspective here, where we just finesse up here and maybe even form a triple top. Okay, so those are the multiple scenarios I'm looking at, but right now I'm counting on a potential lower high or a double top scenario on the SPY. If Bears wanted to really drop the market on Friday, or they wanted to show signs that the market was ready to drop on Friday, we would have at least. I would assume that we would have at least closed within the supply and demand zone at around 544. Now, I thought once we get into 544 range, which we really didn't, that these bears and these wicks here, I tell you guys all the time, wicks tell you where sellers and buyers are, that these wicks right here, that these bears will help drag it down. All right. So that didn't necessarily happen, and we didn't get in the range of these guys here yet. At least we didn't close there. Okay. Bull stepped in almost immediately and are trying to hold SPY up. So I imagine if we really wanted to drop, we would have got back into the supply and demand zone at around 544, started to head towards that 541, 540 range, then see what happens from there. If anything, we just consolidate once we get in here until we get some type of major news. Speaking of news, heading into tomorrow, we don't really have much. We have a FOMC member speaking at 3 in the morning Eastern time. Do they normally speak that early? I don't know. I don't keep track of what time they really speak, but I imagine they don't really speak that early. So that is pretty sus. Even on Tuesday, we have another member speaking at 7 a.m. So it seems like a lot of FOMC members are speaking this week. So you want to pay attention to that if you're the type of trader that just focuses on news or what's going on in the economy, and you trade based off that, or you don't trade based off news, whatever the case may be. So something to pay attention to. But I did think that was pretty weird that they're speaking so early, right before market open. Seems pretty convenient, right? But again, your key level here is 544 on the SPY, and then after that, you're breaking to 541, 540 range. Me personally, I would like to see a break of 539. Let's actually zoom out here so you guys see what's going on. But 539 and then 537 is what I'm looking at as far as the short term. And then if we just so happen to break lower, then we'll talk about where we can go from there. But as you guys can see, I've told you guys about this rising wedge pattern right here. I didn't make this up. We bounced here, bounced here, bounced here, up here. We consolidated and it acted like a magnet at the top of the trend. And then eventually we rejected. We rejected here and then we consolidated here and broke higher. Okay. So right now, I do think that we could be looking at a potential rolling over process and how far we can go. Right now, I'm just looking at about the 530s on the SPY. I don't think we're going to immediately go lower or at least break below this pattern. Maybe we start hitting one more high before we start to break down. Okay. So that's what I'm looking at as far as the SPY. Now, I do genuinely believe that we still have potential to continue to run into big tech earnings. And maybe we'll talk about that in another video, depending on how this week looks. But things don't look too strong, at least on the bull side. I know we like to think the market runs forever, but at some point in time, we do, at least I would like to see some type of cooling off period. I think it was great. We made enough money. We made a lot of money to the upside in the Discord. But I would like to see some better entries. If you paid attention to my last video on the stocks video, I would love to get in on some better entries on a lot of plays, a lot of lead plays. And I think it would be great if we do see some type of cooling off period where the market drops. So that's what I'm paying attention to on the SPY. That's my possible scenario on the SPY. Be careful heading into tomorrow. I'm not looking to really trade anything into tomorrow. I want to see if we can form some type of either lower high or a potential double top on the SPY. We look at the Qs. Qs, we're pretty much looking at the same thing here. We zoom out. As you guys can see, nothing has really changed as far as my charting on the Qs. I pretty much reset everything every week or at the beginning of every week. But as you guys can see, we bounced here, we bounced here, we bounced here, rejected, rejection, 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 so on and so forth. And then we eventually, or the trend acted like a magnet and we headed back up to the trend and we finally retested at around 485, 486. And right now, we're currently rejecting that trend. But it's the same thing I said as far as the SPY goes, where we could be looking. I don't really think we're ready to actually drop, at least at the beginning of the week. We closed above the supply and demand zone at around 478, 470, we'll say 475 psych level as far as the Qs. All right. But we closed above it. And again, if bears wanted to drop, I imagine they would have at least got us into the supply and demand zone. So we didn't do that yet. So if we're reenacting or correlating with the SPY, again, we could be looking at a potential double top scenario. We can even go higher. I mean, there's room to even go higher here where we see a move all the way to at least 490s, 492, 495 before we actually break down. Okay. So be careful heading into tomorrow. All right. Really just pay attention to what's going to happen. We could gap down. That would be great. But I don't see a reason for us to gap down unless I don't know this Fed member that's speaking tomorrow says something insane. But I don't see any real news that can give us a huge reason to just gap down on a Monday. All right, but I could be wrong here. But again, if bears wanted to drop the triple Qs, I imagine we would at least get into the supply and demand zone. So same scenario that I was talking about with the SPY, where we either form a lower high breakdown, or we form a double top breakdown, or we create a new high and we just keep doing it over and over. We just keep doing moves like this. That would be annoying if you're bearish. Okay, if you're a bear, that would be annoying for me because I would love better opportunities, like I said before. All right, so if we break out below the supply and demand zone at around 476, we'll say 475 psych level, then you're looking at a move towards this gap at around 470, 471.5, 470. And again, I tell you guys this all the time. Gaps are very, very tough. Okay. Don't assume that because we get in this area that we're just immediately going to form this gap. They are very, very tough supply. I mean, not supply and demand zones, but very tough support and resistance. Okay. We get into this gap, you're breaking below 470, then your chances are you're heading towards that 468 range and fill this gap at on the triple Qs. All right. So that's what I'm looking at as far as the triple Qs. Now, if we do just have some serious breakdown or whatever the case may be, the lowest I'm looking at right now is about that 460 area. So we'll talk about that if we ever get there. But for now, we are pretty much at the top, I would say. I don't think we're going to just immediately start plummeting down, but I do think short term we're looking at a potential top scenario. We could create another high, like I said, maybe 490s, 492 range. I can't imagine us hitting 500 soon. Maybe a little closer to big tech earnings, but I don't think it's going to happen like right away. That would be pretty insane. All right. Another thing I wanted to show you guys before we pretty much end this video is on the SPY, we look at the weekly chart. Let's get rid of everything. We have an inverted hammer pattern. Now, inverted hammer patterns are usually bullish. Okay, they're usually bullish. Everyone's talking about this on Twitter, Reddit, YouTube. Everyone's talking about this weekly pattern on the SPY and how bearish it is. I would have preferred this to be red, to make me more comfortable and be really, really comfortable in saying, okay, we're going to like absolutely drop. Okay. But again, it is an inverted hammer pattern. It does have potential for a reversal here. If we actually look up inverted hammer patterns, there's not too many examples of a green one. Like for example, the red one is a shooting star. Okay. So I don't know if there's a huge significant difference or if there has to be a difference in the color, I guess, for lack of better wording, but I don't know if there's got to be some huge difference, but even here, you guys can see right here, yes, it's on a downtrend, but this one is green on an inverted hammer pattern, and this is a bullish reversal pattern. But there's plenty of scenarios I've shown you guys in the last video or my stocks video where bullish patterns don't have to be off a downtrend. Apple was a great example. We look at Apple and the double bottom on Apple, it was formed on a upwards trend. Okay, this pattern was formed on an uptrend. It wasn't formed on a downtrend. If you're looking at this double bottom pattern, okay, so I mean, look here. We went up, double bottom, and continued up. So patterns don't necessarily have to form off a certain trend. So that's what's worrying me about the SPY. If you or that should worry you about the SPY right now. But right now, I'm going to assume that this is bearish. Okay, everyone else is saying this is potentially bearish. So maybe there's something I don't know here. But as far as I'm concerned, inverted hammer patterns are usually bullish. But for now, we'll say it's a shooting star pattern because it's on the upwards trend. I really would have liked to see this be red and be bearish looking, but for now, it just it looks it just doesn't look that way. All right, so that's what I'm looking at as far as the SPY and the triple Qs. Um, NQ. So NQ, you're pretty much looking at an inverse hammer pattern on the NQ, which is also a reversal pattern as far as the weekly time frame. But it's the same thing we were looking at as far as the triple Qs. You guys can see it here. Let's actually zoom out. Again, this is the weekly time frame. So this is a very, very powerful time frame. You bounced here, you consolidated here, you finally broke down, you rejected here, you rejected here, and then you headed back up here. And if we're going to assume that the scenario or history is going to repeat itself, like here and here, then it's safe to say that we could be looking at a move down from this trend on in Q, where we do one of these moves, maybe hit here at around 18,600, 18,500 range, and then potentially start to head higher from there. Okay, this is where you have your turbulence. So if we were to have a drop, this is where I assume we're going to drop at around this area here between 18,800, 18,500. So that is on the table. That's a very, very big drop. And if we're talking about the Dow Jones, and if we're assuming that NQ eventually has to catch up with the Dow Jones, if you know, the Dow Jones has been absolutely tanking. So if we're assuming that one has to catch up with the other, which is normally the case, I would say that NQ would have to catch up with the Dow Jones here. That's just my take on it. We're looking at the ES now. Same thing. I'm not gonna go too deep into the futures because I mean the SPY, triple Qs, they pretty much correlate each other. Just do the math, okay? But as far as the ES goes, it's the same exact thing when we're looking at the weekly time frame. We have us an inverted hammer pattern. We're seeing this on every single one. Okay, we're seeing this pattern on every single one on the weekly time frame. Let's get rid of this. So hopefully you guys can see it much better. But yeah, again, another inverted hammer pattern here. So this is a reversal pattern. It could, I mean, I'm not convinced that it's extremely bearish, but considering where it is and considering just considering where it is in general on multiple, on the futures and on SPY and triple Qs, I would say it's safe to say that this is bearish. Okay. I'm just a little skeptical. That's all. But I would say that this is potentially bearish. Now, if we zoom out on the ES, you guys see it, right? Bounced here, rejection, bounce, rejection, bounce, rejection. So you guys know I don't make these patterns up. I don't try to force anything. I make sure that I mark everything so it all makes sense. And if we do see downside on the ES, all right, if we do, there's a lot going on down here. Okay, a lot. I don't know what would cause this, and I don't know if it will happen. I don't know if it can happen, at least short term. if anything, we could just keep doing this over and over, and maybe till we reach some type of top or whatever the case may be, 6,000. I don't know, and then do it. All right, that's on the table. Okay, but if we do just happen to break down, and I mean really break down, there's a lot of space down here, guys. A lot of space. So I don't know what will cause it. We'll talk about it if we get close to that scenario. But right now, just be very, very careful as far as ES. That's really all I have as far as the futures. I'm not going to go over levels. I think you guys get the idea as far as SPY and triple Qs. But if you really want me to go over levels as far as ES and NQ, then let me know in the comments below. Bitcoin. I really had faith in Bitcoin. I'm not even gonna lie to you guys. I had faith. I really did. Bitcoin just doesn't look good. It was in this ascending triangle. It was forming this ascending triangle. It looked great. It had an inverse head and shoulders pattern. And granted, the inverse shoulders pattern, it didn't really play out. It didn't. Um, you had one candle break the neckline, and from there, it just broke down. It just broke down, and now we're breaking below this trend or breaking below the ascending triangle. So if you want to use Bitcoin as a leading indicator that the market could potentially drop, then this is your leading indicator here, and this is your potential sign here that the market could be seeing a drop in the near future. And so you guys know I'm not making this up. We bounced here, and we finally broke through. All right, so this is a very important trend. As you guys can see, this is on the daily time frame, tough time frame. All right, so we're breaking down on Bitcoin. As far as your levels go, you're looking at a move back down to 60,500. This is where that all that turbulence is. This is where bulls are as well. So we can be really breaking down as far as Bitcoin. After that, you're looking at a move. After that, 60,000, I would say 59K to be safe. You're looking at a move back down to 57, 56K. All right. So it's not looking too good as far as Bitcoin. I'm really glad I just was really patient as far as investing into crypto and getting the Discord into crypto because I just had a feeling that I didn't have a feeling, but it was just more so like we just were having a hard time breaking out of this area. So that's my thoughts heading into the market this week. Hopefully it made sense. Hopefully it's clear. I will wait as far as trading tomorrow and just really see what's going on, see what's on the table, see how things are looking. Really look out for those scenarios I mentioned. We could form a double top, maybe fill this gap in on the SPY and form some type of lower high or a double top as well. Whatever the case may be, just be very cautious. That's all I have, traders. Discord link is in the description below if you want my signals early. And until the next video, traders, have a good one.